or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'll do that now.
Okay. First of all, Happy New Year. Welcome to everybody to the January meeting of Healthwatch Salford. We're just going to go around and introduce ourselves in turn. My name's Phil Morgan and I'm the chair of Healthwatch Salford. Asking people in the order in which I see them. Elise.
Hi everybody, my name's Elise and I'm the Knowledge and Support Officer here at Healthwatch Salford.
And Alex.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex Leach, I'm the Chief Officer here at Healthwatch Salford.
Hannah.
Hello everyone, I'm Hannah Swadkins. I am an inspector for the Care Quality Commission and I own the portfolio for Salford.
Excellent. And we're going to hear from you in a moment as well. Jackie?
Yep, hi, I'm Jackie Lee from, I'm the Deputy Chair, Healthwatch Salford.
Scarlett?
Hi everyone, I'm Scarlett. I'm the Volunteer and Involvement Officer at Healthwatch Salford.
Nisa?
Good afternoon, I'm a trustee at Healthwatch Salford.
Ali?
Hi everybody, I'm an engagement officer specialising in adult social care at Healthwatch Salford.
Holly?
Hi everyone, I'm Holly. I'm an engagement officer working on Living Well in Salford.
Mark?
Good afternoon everybody, I'm Mark. I'm part of the engagement team with Healthwatch Salford.
And Jay?
Hi everyone, my name is Jay Ahmed. I'm a trustee at Healthwatch Salford. Pleased to be here.
Likewise. And I think we've got Rimpy back. She's been in and gone and come back again. Hi Rimpy, would you like to just introduce yourself, please? I think Rimpy may still be continuing to have problems. So what I suggest we do is we've got Hannah here as our guest. She's going to talk a bit about the role of the CQC and how they and we can work well together. Hannah, we can't see you, but you can see us, we understand. And I think we may have a presentation from you, which we will be able to see. So it's over to you now, Hannah. And well, yes, we have a screenshot now. Thank you. I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So yeah, hello everybody, and thank you again for allowing me to attend your meeting and have a little chat with yourselves about the Care Quality Commission, or CQC, what we do, and yeah, basically a bit of, I'm going to start with a little bit of history though for you. So if we go to the next slide, please. CQC, oh, my computer's frozen, there we go. It's an executive, non-departmental public body of the Department of Health and Social Care of the United Kingdom. It was established in 2009 to regulate and inspect health and social care services in England. It was formed from 3 predecessor organisations, which have come up on the slide for you there: the Healthcare Commission, the Commission for the Commission for Social Care Inspection, and the Mental Health Act Commission as well. So they all combined to create what we now know as the Care Quality Commission. Let me go to the next slide for me, please. The Commission was established as a single integrated regulator for England's health and adult social care services by the Health and Social Care Act 2008. The Health and Social Care Act regulated activities regulations, bit of a mouthful, replaced the 2010 regulations and established new regulations. These included the fundamental standards, which are the standards that care should never fall below, for example, dignity and safety and consent, duty of candour, and the fit and proper persons requirement for directors. And under the regulations, CQC is now able to prosecute cases where someone using a registered service is harmed or is at risk of harm. Next slide, please. So that's a little history lesson for you. So who are we? What do we do now? If you go to the next slide again, please. So we basically, in a nutshell, we make sure that health and social care services provide people with safe, effective, compassionate, high quality care, and we encourage services to improve. Next slide, please. So we register care providers we have quite a few different functions actually. These are the 4 main functions. So we register care providers, we monitor, inspect and rate services, which is the thing we're probably most known for, to be honest. We take action to protect people who use services, and we speak with our independent voice. So I'm going to explain those functions in a couple minutes. Before that, if we go to the next slide, please. As with most organisations, we have our values at the core of what we do. So these values are excellence, caring, integrity and teamwork. So to kind of say what they are on the tin really, but excellence, we show this in being a high-performing organisation. We aim for caring by treating everyone with dignity and respect. Integrity, we make sure we do the right thing, even if it means providers might not like us sometimes. And teamwork, so we learn from each other to be the best that we can. Next slide, please. So registering and monitoring. So before a care provider can carry out any of the activities that we regulate, they must register with us and satisfy us that they can meet a number of requirements. We use registration processes to check whether care providers can meet a number of legal requirements. So these include the fundamental standards I briefly mentioned of quality and safety. We'll also look at information about the applicants and the services that they intend to provide, and we'll make judgments about whether we think they're suitable, whether there are enough staff, and whether they've got the right skills, qualifications and experience, the size, layout and design of the places where they intend to provide care, their policies and systems and procedures and how effective we think they'll actually be, how they run and how they plan to make decisions. And you can actually find the information of the services we've registered on our website. So once the service is registered with us, we then monitor them continuously through data that we receive, and the information we gather helps us to see how services are performing between the inspections that we do. Next slide, please. So the second core function that we have is that we inspect and rate. So this is probably one of the most recognised functions of CQC. We use 5 questions, which we call our key lines of inquiry. We ask all the care services the same 5 questions. And these questions are at the heart of what we do and how we regulate. And they help us to make sure that we focus on the things that matter to people. So these questions are, if you go to the next slide, please. So we have safe. We ask if the service is safe, then this must mean that it protects people from abuse and avoidable harm. We look at effective. If the service is effective, it means your care, treatment and support achieves good outcomes, helps you to maintain quality of life and is based on the best available evidence. We look at whether the service is caring, and if it is caring, it means that staff involve and treat you with compassion, kindness, dignity and respect. Responsive. If a service is responsive, it means the services are organised so that it actually meets your needs. And finally, well-led. If a service is well-led, it means the leadership, management and governance of the organisation make sure it's providing high quality care that's based around your individual needs. And it encourages learning and innovation, and it promotes an open and fair culture. Next slide, please. Now this you may have seen if you've ever seen one of our reports, or you may have even seen it outside a care home that you've driven past or something like that, where they might be showing off that they got a good or outstanding rating and things like that. So we give ratings to providers when we inspect them. So there are 4 ratings, and there's outstanding, good, requires improvement and inadequate. We give a rating for each of the 5 key questions I mentioned before, the safe, effective, etc. We also give the service an overall rating. So by law, care providers have to display the ratings we give them. They must display them in places where they provide care, in a place that people who use the service can easily see them, and it should also be on their website as well. So sometimes, as I say, especially if a service gets a rating that they're very proud of, you will usually see a lovely big banner put outside because they are very proud, and it is a great achievement, especially to achieve outstanding as well. Next slide, please. So we also take action to protect people. So everyone has the right to receive safe, high quality care. If we find that care has fallen short of this, we can use our powers to take action against those responsible. So what action we take depends on how the problem we've identified affects people who use the service and how serious they are. Next slide, please. So we normally call this enforcement if we take action against the service. The action we can take usually includes, for example, requirement notices or warning notices, and these set out what improvements the care provider must make and by when. We can also make changes to a care provider's registration to limit what they may do. For example, we'll impose conditions for a given time. So if there's a care home we're not particularly happy about how they're looking after their residents, we may say, actually, you're not allowed to admit any new residents until you've got X, Y, Z sorted out. We can also place a provider in special measures, where this is where we'll closely supervise the quality of care while working with other organisations to help them improve within a set timescale. We'll also hold the provider to account for their failings by issuing simple cautions. We can issue fines, and as I mentioned earlier, we prosecute cases where people are harmed or placed in danger of harm. So we always included details of any action we've taken as in response to an inspection in our reports, and we clearly show on the provider's page on our website when we are using our powers in this way. Next slide, please. Thank you. So our independent voice. So we regulate the NHS and the independent sector, but we aren't actually a part of them. So we are independent to them. So we're able to kind of look with almost a critical friend kind of view. So we speak out with our independent voice by publishing our views on major quality issues in health and social care. A recent publication was our State of Care report, which was published in November 2021. It's our annual assessment of healthcare and social care in England. And the report looks at trends, shares examples of good and outstanding care, and it highlights where care needs to improve. Now, this report can be read or listened to on our website currently. I didn't actually know you could listen to it, which I thought was a great addition that they've put on. So yeah, our next slide, please. That is quite a whistle-stop tour. Probably a lot of information to take in, but I did want to give you any opportunity to ask any questions you may have about the CQC.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Hannah. It might just be useful if you outlined as a start before we take any questions what your role in Salford is, because you said you lead on Salford. It'd be
Yes.
useful to explain a little bit more about what your role is with Salford.
Yes, of course. So I am a PMS or Primary Medical Services Inspector. So I hold a portfolio for the GP practices in Salford. So I will monitor the data for those practices. I speak to the CCG and I speak to Alex about what's going on in Salford, and I will generally take a lead on inspections in the area as well. So that's kind of what I do in Salford.
Okay, that's really helpful. Questions from board or staff? Very welcome. Mark.
Hi, Hannah. You might not be able to answer this, but back in the days of the sort of new normal, of the normal life, rather, I know health watchers, a few health watchers across the country were piloting a project with the CQC, looking at doing concurrent visits at the same time. And it was emphasised that these weren't joint visits, but these were concurrent visits to try to make maximum use of the staff time and get something from a patient and a staffing perspective. Do you know if they are going to continue, if they did continue?
I have no idea, I'm afraid. It sounds like a really good idea to me, because I think that is something that I personally struggle with, is how we get the patient voice, especially currently now. It's very difficult for us to get the patient voice. So it sounds like a great idea. Okay. I don't know how I can do anything with that. Maybe me and Alex can chat about that.
I'll have a look for some more information on our end, and then I'll share that with Alex.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Rimpy, please.
Hi, Hannah. I missed the intro, so I'm a trustee here at Healthwatch Salford. So my question was, over the pandemic, have you placed any kind of measures to support primary care practices so that if they're not meeting the high standards that you expect, that you're taking that into consideration, what's happened over the pandemic?
Yep, so in Salford, no, we haven't at the moment, but I have supported some of my colleagues in other areas where we've had to take action, because again, as I say, the services weren't meeting the standard we would expect, and that's been reported usually as a requires improvement or inadequate rating, and as I mentioned in the slideshow, a few examples of conditions being put in place for practices, but none in Salford at the moment. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Jay, you had your hand up and then it went down. I'm not sure whether you want to ask a question.
It wasn't so much a question. It was just sort of, I was just fielding something a little bit. I was just thinking, you know, in the current climate with everything that's going on, I mean, I sort of understand CQC and Healthwatch, how they work together in a regular climate. I'm just wondering how that could best work in the climate we're in right now, because it seems to be difficult for us both to really get the data we need and achieve our goals. But what would be the best way, from your perspective, Hannah, that Healthwatch Salford could help you in your endeavours at CQC?
So one of the ways at the moment is meeting with Alex. So we meet, I think, quarterly. Every time we have a chat, I keep forgetting how long the time scale is, don't I, Alex? But we meet quite regularly, and Alex is able to share what Healthwatch is doing, any projects that you're doing at the time, but also sometimes any concerns that you've received about practice. And I think we're working on how we can share that information so that the information you get can be redacted appropriately to then be able to be used by me to know about specific practices, and if there's any action we need to take. So we're actually currently working on that at the moment to try and make it as smooth as we can. So it's not any additional work either, ideally, for people, because I know redacting takes quite a long time. So yeah, so that's the plan at the moment. But I'm always open to ideas, because as I said in response to Mark, I am very conscious that the patient voice is not getting heard as much as maybe in the past. Patients are encouraged, and they can get in touch with the CQC through our website or through phoning us up and sharing concerns that way. But sometimes people don't always know that. So obviously meeting yourselves at Healthwatch is sometimes a bit easier. So yeah, any way we can share that data is useful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jackie?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Hi, Hannah. Sometimes when we think of the CQC, we always think of the negatives. So we always think of organisations not doing well rather than those that are high performing. And there's obviously high performing organisations in Salford. I'm just thinking, is there any way, or maybe you do, share the good news with Healthwatch Salford, so we can, publicise some of the good things that are happening across Salford, rather than always sometimes focusing on what's particularly not working well.
Yeah, so if I'm honest, I don't think we do at the moment. And I think that's really important, actually, because a lot of the GP services in Salford and wider have really had a tough time. Actually, all the care services have a really tough time, and actually it is important to celebrate where they have done creative or dynamic things to help serve their patient populations. So to be fair, I don't think I do spend enough time talking about that with Alex and sharing the good stuff we hear. But to be honest, I don't get many good things in. Usually people get in touch with CQC, it's usually to express a concern, but we do get the odd one. So I think if that will be beneficial, I'm more than happy to start including that in our agenda, Alex, as well. Because yeah, you're right, it's important to celebrate where people are doing good work.
Good. Anybody else while we have the opportunity? Okay, in that case, thank you very much, Hannah. It's reassuring to hear that you've got the line of communication open with Alex and that's working at the moment. That's really helpful because it allows us to share what we have about the public and patient voice and you an opportunity to identify things you're looking at. I think the point made by Mark earlier is really interesting. You know, whether there is an opportunity to do some interesting pilot work around parallel inspections. And that's something which you may want to think about further and take back to CQC. But I think that's a really helpful idea.
I think I'll ask my colleagues about that actually as well, because as Alex knows, I was quite new to PMS about halfway through the pandemic. I used to inspect hospitals, so I'll ask them about those plans and see where they're up to, because some areas might be a bit further potentially. So I will ask.
Okay, and I think Mark's doing some chasing around of that as well. So that's
brilliant.
Really helpful. As I mentioned before we started, you're very welcome to stay for the rest of this part of the meeting. We also do understand if you have other things you want or need to do.
Yeah, I will pop out, but thank you very much for having me. And if any of you want to ever pass on any questions or any thoughts or anything like that, then Alex has my details and so does Elise actually, so feel free to get in touch.
Okay, thank you very much for taking the time and trouble today. Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we now move on to the main part of the meeting. We've done the welcome and introductions. We have one apology from Sam Cook for at least this bit of the meeting. She will try and join us later in the afternoon at some point. We have the minutes from the last meeting. We're happy to agree those to and correct record. Somebody nod, please. I see he's nodding, thank you. And there's no matters arising in the action log. So that's simple. Do we have any declarations of interest? I have two more, apologies for this. I'm now on the Newton with Clifton Village Hall Committee as a Guardian trustee. And more interestingly, I'm on what's called the interim resident panel for the building safety executive for the new building safety regulator when it's set up. This is more to do with both my day work in resident engagement, but also my role as a former member of a resident management board in a tower block with inflammable cladding. That isn't actually formally announced yet, but it seems appropriate that I should raise it as a declaration of interest. Do we have any questions from members of the public, Elise?
No, we haven't received any.
Okay, just remind those people assiduously viewing us on YouTube that there is an opportunity for members of the public to ask us questions, and we're very happy to receive them and answer them to the best of our ability. Move on to the Chair's report, which I've circulated. As ever, there's a substantial amount on the development of the integrated care system in Greater Manchester. There's quite a lot of work ongoing, which both Alex and Jackie have also been involved in. There's also been, in the last 24 hours, some discussion of some of the points that have been raised nationally on behalf of health watchers, both about whether there should be a place on the Integrated Care Board, which is an issue which we've raised here in Greater Manchester. And that's been parked for the moment as the government feels that it's appropriate to allow local discretion on this, although they are supportive of there being some kind of voice for health watchers within the structure. There's also still an outstanding question about how health watchers will be funded for their work at an integrated care system. The government has accepted that there is an issue to be resolved, but has not resolved it. I think it was the conclusion of the discussion in the House of Lords yesterday. Otherwise, just to flag up that at the Northwest meeting of health watchers, we had a presentation from somebody from ADAS, the Association of Directors of Adult Social Services, and they highlighted the importance of patient voice in social care, particularly at the moment. So that's something we probably want to be aware of. And the other point is just to pick up through one of the sessions last week with Healthwatch England, that long COVID is starting to appear as an issue on people's radars now. It's something I'm aware of because my partner's daughter has it. but it's starting to pick up through other things. I know the NHS has got a long COVID task force, and I know there are some patients on that who have got experience of long COVID. But it's something which I think we may find is going to become higher on our agenda going forward than it has been up till now. Happy to take any questions on my report or comments. In that case, Rimpy, please.
Hi there. Yeah, so just a few based on your report. So you've said Healthwatch England have appointed a new chief exec. Are there any inklings on what her program of work could be going forward? Are there any changes from the previous chief exec, or is there anything new that we're being asked to do?
I don't think so. I think it's probably too early to tell at the moment. She's not been put in post, and I think that's somewhere around March, April, is it, Alex? So don't think we would expect to see any substantial changes. The one thing I think that may well have happened anyway is I think the emphasis on inequalities is something which is going to continue to rise as an issue within Healthwatch generally. And within Healthwatch England. So the issues of inequalities, I think, will be the thing I think will change, but I think it probably would have changed anyway.
Okay, and then just my other question was, given your comments just now on long COVID, could that impact on any future programs that we're going to be doing locally and also in Greater Manchester? If that agenda takes over, would we see delays in terms of the unmet need and hidden need projects that are probably trying to gather momentum now?
I think Alex might be better able to answer some of this because I think it's something he's been thinking about anyway.
Yeah, so in terms of the long COVID, there's been a health watching GM who's done a specific piece of work on that. And that was liaising with the Health and Social Care Partnership. There's been a request from the partnership for other health watches to look at long COVID, and that's something that we're going to be reviewing internally around if we can resource that. And of course, you know, if that's aligned to our business plan and strategic goals. So it's something that's on our agenda, and I'm hoping that we can look at that because it is a prominent issue, and there are a number of sites, one in particular in Salford that, you know, is on our patch. So I think it'd be well versed for us to do some work around that. So I'd definitely say that'd be something on our agenda, Rimpy.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Any other questions or comments, please? If not, thank you. Can we move on with your report now, Alex, please?
Yeah, so I don't plan to go through the report in detail. It's quite a detailed report as such, but there's a couple of issues that I just want to pick out just so the board are aware. The first one, in terms of our operational working, we were back out doing in-person engagement and had a flexible approach to the office, but due to COVID-19 increasing cases and the Omicron variant, we decided, in line with government guidance, to work from home for a foreseeable and also limit our engagement. So everything has been back virtually. So I just thought I'd make that point first. This is something, obviously, the restrictions are being eased now, and that's something that we are going to look at and wanting to explore our in-person engagement again, because it's a vital piece of our work, getting back out on the ground and having conversations with members of the public around all of our work. So that's something that we are going to be reviewing. The report covers the progression on all of our projects, both those that are aligned to our business plan and those that are additionally commissioned activities. So I just wanted to note, in the period, we have one additional commissioned activities, which is the unmet need in adult social care. So it's just noting that piece of work is now ongoing alongside all our other pieces of work which are detailed in the report. So in terms of our outreach and activity, in terms of engagement, so in December we ran our community forum, which was around equalities in Salford, and that were actually well timed because Salford City Council launched their equality strategy. So we're able to gather some views around that, and also some other issues that came out of that meeting. And just to note that we've planned in our listening tour, which is a detailed review of what that looks like, how we're going to be moving forward with that. We did plan to run that firstly in January, the last couple of weeks in January, but obviously due to us not being in-person engagement, we had to pull that back. So we're going to be reviewing that going into February now, but that's quite a detailed piece of work in each area of Salford, speaking to local people. So in terms of volunteering, we have 25 volunteers currently registered on our list, and they've supported 37 hours of time in the period, and an in-depth review of what activities that have been happening, and also their feedback as well of how they've been involved in our work, which again is really positive in terms of the work that they've been doing. And then in relation to our comms and outreach online, there's a detailed figure in terms of our social media statistics and our website. We've published 4 e-bulletins and our quarterly newsletter in the period. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the detail of the report, and also if staff members want to come in on that's completely fine as well.
Thank you, Alex. Ali, do you want to just explain a little bit about the Unmet Needs Project, please?
Yeah, so Healthwatch England asked for local health watches to apply for a grant, and 5 were allocated throughout the whole country, and we were one of the successful applicants. So Healthwatch England are looking for 3 case studies, very detailed case studies of people that are struggling to access adult social care, 1 from a carer and 2 from the actual service users or potential service users. So we've submitted our first case study, and we've got 2 more that are in the stream ongoing, and yeah, it's very, very interesting work.
I think at some point you'll do a presentation to the board on this.
I'm sure I will. Yeah, the final submission deadline is the 11th of March, so the case studies and transcripts have to be in by then. So that's my deadline.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments on Alex's report, please? Wimpy, please.
Yeah, so I just wondered on the unmet need, are these 3 case studies, have these been decided locally, or are they from Healthwatch England?
They're all, they've all been decided locally.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So the project has been developed by Healthwatch England for each of the 5 local health watches who won the grants, to find someone locally who meets the criteria, struggling to access adult social care. They're also looking for the people that we're interviewing to be from a really diverse background. So we're trying to meet that criteria as well, to make sure we can get the voices from all parts of the community.
Yeah, it's good to see carers' views represented in there as well.
Yeah, that was the first. I've done 1 of the 3 case studies, and that was the first one that I did, and it was very interesting and very thought-provoking.
Yeah, the only omission I would say on there, maybe 3 was the limit, is young people. And as we've heard, there's talk of having a young person's youth watch, health watch. Maybe that's an omission, but maybe that will come later on.
The guidance for the project has come from Healthwatch England, and they decided on the criteria and the different groups that they want us to reach, but I can certainly feed that back, definitely.
Good. Any other questions or comments? I've just got one more, the dentistry project, which I think is due shortly. It's just, this is just starting to pick up, and actually was part of the House of Lords discussions last night. It's just kind of where we are in terms of sequence of that and again when we might get an update or presentation to the board on it.
I'll hand over to Mark, who's leading on that piece of work.
Cheers, Alex. Yes, the report's been finalised. It should be ready and published early next week, if not sooner. I was hoping to get it out today, really, if we could have tagged it onto the BBC News article about dentistry that also mentions about Healthwatch England. It would have been quite ideal to have used that as a bit of a media hook. But yes, the report is finalised now and it will be published next week. And I'm sure I can put a presentation together for your next board meeting.
Okay, thank you very much for that. If there's nothing else, thank you very much, Alex, for your report. We now move on to the business progress on the business plan and the RAG ratings for it. So Alex, over to you again.
Yeah, so the RAG ratings, just to note that we are on target of around 90% of the business plan, which is what we were set to achieve. So I think that's just the main point. There are 3 areas that I just want to update in terms of the business plan where we've not got a green rating, just for some board assurance, and then maybe how we timetable that in or review some areas as part of our business planning session that we will run. So the first one was initially around the GP project, and that's looking at experiences of people who use GP services in Salford. The initial review was to be completed around the winter period, and particularly around now, but as you'll be well aware, there's been a huge resource uptake in primary care, and having discussions with our colleagues in the system, we felt actually running this piece of work now would be very challenging, not just for the resource of those within the system, but also ensuring that the message goes out to patients as well. So we agreed to delay this piece of work, looking at a review in early February to see where we are in terms of the system and the pressures. So I just wanted to give some assurance that's been the viewpoint on that particular piece of work. And just at the point where we were discussing before around long COVID, there may be an opportunity to utilise the resource which we didn't put into this specific project and utilise that in more of a timely piece of work around long COVID. So I guess it's some reflection about that going into our business plan and looking at this project as part of our business planning session in February. So I think that's just some viewpoint on that piece of work. In terms of the social prescribing, again, this piece of work was to be completed around the winter period. Again, this has been a resource issue for those in the system, as a number of organisations within the voluntary sector work in social prescribing. And following a conversation that we've had with our colleagues within the system, it's found that it may be beneficial for us to review this in early April. Again, that's something that we would look to want to do, but again, just planning up to that in this interim stage. So that's just something that I wanted to raise and flag with the board and get a viewpoint on that specific piece of work. And then the Speak Up Salford fund. So this is particularly just in terms of the utilisation of the fund. We've pushed this quite hard in terms of online and out to a number of community groups. So it's just to note that we probably won't reach that figure in terms of number, but it's been pushed really hard, and it's an external issue, not an internal issue in terms of that specific piece of work. So I think they're just the main points. And then I think the rest of the report, as you see, is flagged as green, which is really positive and just a testament to the hard work of all our team. So I just wanted to note that on record. Phil.
Yeah, very much shared by me as well. Thank you to all the staff. Rimpy, please.
Yeah, so yes, it's good to see most of that is green. That's great. I've just got a couple of points under influencing. to direct and oversee the Joint Strategic Needs Assessment. Are there any new issues coming up in the JSNA that we are directly influencing, for example, any of the new projects that we've just mentioned? That was the first point. And then the second point, is there any feedback on the trustee skills audit? Did you see a cross section of skills, or did we have some peculiar and unique skills that makes us peculiar and unique? That's to our advantage.
Yeah, so I think in terms of the first question, Rimpy, all our reports go into the Health and Wellbeing Board and one of the subcommittees, the LPG. Now, when that goes in, there is an offer to present at those boards, so there's that influence there at that level. So I guess that the answer is yes, we do influence. And then if there's any further conversation around deep dives, and there's that opportunity. For example, we did a workshop session on our strategic plan at the Health and Wellbeing Board, which was a really useful exercise and was able to influence the system in terms of our priorities, aligning to some of the priorities as a board. So I guess that's the way we work in terms of that influencing role. The second question is that I'd hope to bring our skills audits to the business planning session for us to review that and obviously plan that into our next financial year in terms of any additional activities that we may or may not need. So that is on the agenda.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Jackie, please.
I'm just thinking the project, the work around the voluntary sector and the social prescribing stuff, the delay in that might be fortuitous, because maybe there is an opportunity. I'm just thinking about the long COVID, that, you know, asking a couple of questions about long COVID within that project, not changing the whole thing, but it might be quite useful, because there could be the hidden use of the PIVO sector for long COVID patients. So it would be quite useful to see if we can pick anything up on that when you do look at that.
Yeah, we'll take that into the review, Jackie, so thank you for that.
Okay, thanks. Anything else? In that case, thank you. As you say, it's majority green, and there are explanations for the three yellows. Move on now to representative feedback. Jay, have you got anything to report back from the Health and Social Adult Care Scrutiny Panel?
The Adult Scrutiny Panel was cancelled this month, unfortunately. I think it will be back on next month, but we'll have to wait and see. It was cancelled at the last minute, so my apologies for not having anything to report back.
Okay, thanks. And I think I've noted in my report I can't make the February meeting with you, but I should be okay then after that. Anybody else got anything to report back? Jackie, is there anything you want to just feedback from your various support you're giving to the Greater Manchester Health Watchers at the moment?
Yeah, I've just been involved in some of the work that's looking at the quality assured, the framework, and how Healthwatch across Greater Manchester can support that. So that work's been quite nice. It's quite nice to see some cohesion across Greater Manchester. Nothing to report in particular, just that work is going on.
Okay, thanks for that. And Rimpy, you're involved in some of the Healthwatch EDI action learning set.
Yeah, that's right. So this is hosted by Healthwatch England, and it's the sessions are every month conducted by an external facilitator, and each member of the group has to present an issue that the board or the organisation is currently challenged by. So previous examples have been, for example, One Healthwatch was struggling to recruit volunteers, and we gave support on how we can, or how that particular Healthwatch can recruit more volunteers. and I've yet to present something, and I have had discussions with Alex recently. I would prefer to present something that we can all agree on and something that's tangible that we can work towards completing, rather than what my quite limited view might be. So the issues that I would be looking for would be, one, how to diversify your board to better reflect the communities your Healthwatch serves, how your board can use the quality framework to support EDI progress, how your board can embed EDI at a strategic level to support the sustainability of your Healthwatch. So I would go into the next action learning set, for instance, describe the situation. I will then be supported by the members of that action learning set. I will then identify next steps within that session. I will then come back here and present what we've discussed. We will then agree some type of little action plan, and then at the following meeting of the action learning set, I will present what we as an organisation have decided to move forward. So I need a practical example of what we might have issues with at the moment. So are there any issues that we could be struggling with in terms of an EDI approach?
If it helps, I'm not sure it's an issue either for our board or for our staff, which would then steer it more towards, are we embedding it in our strategic approach?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in terms of the update that I gave to Rimpy, I gave the work around our piece of internal EDI surveying and reporting on that as an example. I don't know if that answered the question, Rimpy, or if you want me to explore any other areas around that. You know, I'm more than happy to look at that. Just what is the detail that you require?
Yeah, I can have a look at this again and present that and see if that's going to be a suitable example for the learning set, and then I'll come back to you, Alex. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Anything else in terms of representative feedback? Is there any other business in this part of the meeting? If not, thank you all very much for your time and travel today. Board members and Alex and Lisa will be joining me for the part 2 session, which will start in 10 minutes.